I 30F am trying to navigate issues with my 29 meters BF. My BF 29 meters and I 30F have been dating for 6 months and we got pregnant 4 months into our relationship. We have known each other for 6 years but never lived in the same city consistently until we started dating. We planned on getting pregnant so we were super happy when this happened. And we planned on moving in together but first he had to travel for 3 weeks while I was 5 weeks pregnant and I fell into really deep depression and anxiety. After he returned home I expressed to him my emotions and he tried to comfort me the best he could but he's more the quiet type than being overly emotional. My depression only got worse as pregnancy continued and I brought up to him the idea of abortion and he at first was really upset and then later told me he would support my decision if I felt it was too soon for us to have children. I was scared of us having a kid too soon and him not fulfilling promises he made about changing his lifestyle once we had kids. I had previously tried to break things off because I don't drink alcohol or smoke cigarettes and he does these two things in excess. Once I got pregnant he did cut back on smoking but was still smoking and vaping, just not as much. He still had an occasional night out with his boys every few weeks where he'd be out all night drinking. I expressed to him my concerns and after the final talk he asked me if we could no longer speak about his smoking or drinking or his need to watch every sports game in 2 different kinds of sports. He told me he plans on watching these 2 sports teams for the rest of his life and never missing a game and said he would be with occasionally missing 1 or 2 as the need came up if it clashed with our future child's schedule. He said he would try to quit smoking cigs before the baby arrives but can't promise anything. He said he could never live without alcohol, period. I felt really worried as I grew up with a dad who prioritized sports, drinking and cigarettes and it definitely affected me negatively. I even expressed this to him and he kept ensuring me it wouldn't change the quality of life our child would have. I told him after my depression got worse that maybe it's not the right time for me to have the baby because I'm having so many doubts. This is after he tells me he won't get a life insurance policy because I said it would be a smart move in case anything ever happened to us. I was recently in a terrible car accident and brought this up. He is also 100 pounds overweight and has really bad sleep apnea. He agreed he would get a CPAP machine since I wasn't able to sleep next to him and I expressed concerns about my rest quality for during pregnancy and after the baby is born. He says he is willing to help out as much as me but does occasionally have to travel for work. We were supposed to get engaged over New Year's Eve but he didn't propose BC my depression had gotten noticeably heavier. Then that Friday we were supposed to sign our lease for a house and I told him let's wait BC I want the CPAP machine taken care of before that. The next day I wrote him I was feeling even more depressed and I was worried because I felt I wasn't eating enough for the pregnancy. He didn't answer me and called me 4 hours later in which he didn't address anything I said. I told him I think it's best we terminate the pregnancy and try again when my mental health is better because I was worried the baby wasn't developing in a healthy happy mom. He said he supported me but was upset and then my mom called and I answered to tell her I'd call her back. By the time I called my boyfriend back he said he was on the way to the airport to pick up his roommate. He said he'd call me back when we could talk more. He never called me back and the next day he went to a sports event and then a work event and said he was too busy to call me. Throughout the day texted him after I made the appointment and said I didn't know if I could go through with it and he reassured me I could but it will be uncomfortable. I asked him if he felt this was the right thing to do and if he was 100% sure and he said he was actually a bit relieved and said it's been really stressful on him trying to do everything so fast. I asked him to take me to the appointment for termination of the pregnancy and he said he would but never called me back or responded to the rest of my texts that night. I was infuriated by this. The next morning on the way to the appointment he was trying not to come in with me but I made him. In the waiting room I told him I didn't know if I was making the right decision and he said he felt 100% sure this was the right decision so I went through with it. He said in the waiting room he wanted to go to the sports event an hour away after I was done. I gave him a death glare and then he responded he was just kidding. He stayed with me for the amount of time it took for the process to complete since it was an at-home process as it is with pill medical abortions. The next day he said we should have kept the baby and that he only said he was 100% sure out of anger because he was upset I wanted to terminate the pregnancy. He asked how soon again I can get pregnant and this upset me BC. He knows I wasn't 100% on my decision the day of. He then left BC. He said my place was too dusty. I hadn't cleaned because I'd been depressed and pregnant and was afraid of breathing in any chemicals during my pregnancy. I let him go but it was pretty obvious I still needed his comfort. After he got home I called him and cried and wept I felt regret and wish I never made the appointment. He said that was normal and would pass. I said I was gonna try to nap but I was never able to fall asleep. Around 10 p.m. he texted me he's going out with the boys and didn't get home till 5 a.m. and called me then. The next day I was furious and also feeling sway. Doll, so I decided to not be mad but just inform him I didn't feel like I could live with my decision and he should take me to a hospital because I was researching ways to end my life for hours. This day he decided to stay with me and cancel his plans to celebrate his friend's birthday. I cried all night and he kept saying it's okay, we'll have another baby as soon as I can. He leaves my place BC there's a big playoff sports event tonight and doesn't answer my texts but sends me a voice memo by accident. I'm pretty sure I hear two girls sitting with him and his friends. I ask who they are and he says he doesn't know who they are, he's in a crowded place. He doesn't text again or call me this evening. How should I navigate this? We're supposed to move in together at the end of the month after he has a week-long work trip coming up.